Today is October the 9th of 2023. It is episode 1, the debut episode of the Flamin' Talk podcast with your co-hosts, myself, Noah Adler, and Connor Dolan. Connor, my friend, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Well, I mean, hey, I'm excited that hockey's going to be back in less than 24 hours or so. So I'm
Oh
pretty
yeah.
pumped up for it. And but the Flames, on the other hand, will be back on Wednesday night. But hey, I mean, tomorrow night we got hockey to watch across the rest of the league. So let's get it going, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just long time. I remember actually from August when I saw from like 90 days or 100 days, and they talked about there's 99 days left and 98. I'm like, geez, that seems a long ways away. And now here we are, a day away left. So
Well, I gotta be honest with you, man. Like it felt like the longest off season I can possibly remember.
yeah, I mean, we'll say longest. I say longest, but I think there's some satisfaction to it. We'll get there when we get there, but there was some satisfaction in the off season for sure, just with hirings and firings. But yeah.
Well, yeah, for sure. But let's talk about though like why we decided to start this podcast out because I'll talk a little bit about myself here before we go on to you and what you have to say about that.
Mhm.
But I mean, for me, this is sort of a homecoming to an extent because I'd obviously been the co-host of the Blassie Cast and several other podcasts before that, and I'd
Mhm.
taken quite a bit of a hiatus for podcasts, which for reasons I will definitely not go into, but everyone
Yeah.
knows why the reasons why I was hiatus for quite a while there. But I'm excited to be back. I'm excited to be doing the Flames podcast again. So, especially with one of my best friends in the world. So let's get this thing going, man.
Yeah. Do you want to start with just doing a little more about who you are, or do you want me to start?
I figured you'll start because I explained basically why I wanted to do this podcast to begin with.
Okay. Um. Well, as you guys know, my name's Connor Dolan. For like why I decided to really go into this podcast. Honestly, I've never done podcasting, and it was actually Noah that asked me if I wanted to be a part of it, and I just was like, I'll try something new. Right? It's just getting into different directions, and if that's something you want to do, and I'm like, yeah, hell, why not? I like talking about the Flames, and if it's in a podcast too, then great. So, um, I guess who I am really. Don't want to get too much into my personal life, but I'm a geez. I've been a I work as an EA actually for a daycare in downtown Calgary. So that's kind of my job. But on the other hand, I'm just a average guy, kind of watching hockey. Flames. I watch football too right now, football season's also going on, so I can watch a little bit of that. Um, really, and if you want to just um, why I became a Flames fan is a little bit. It's not actually something that I really chose. It's more of a passing along from my father to myself. I didn't really have when I saw hockey and I played hockey, my dad cheered for the Flames, and I didn't see what other team I could really cheer for, so I just cheered for the Flames as well. And it just stuck rather than me just kind of saying, I'm a big boy now and I can choose what I want to. I've been like, well, I started a while ago, so I might as well keep going. So that, yeah. And then, yeah, that's just kind of what I did. I just decided, I'm gonna be a Flames fan, and I guess I might as well stick with it because I started it, and I better go with it because be a hell of a change to try and switch a team for me mentally and also physically because I have a lot of this merch to get rid of. So I'm not changing. No thanks.
Well said there, man. I mean, it's obviously great, story about how you became a fan and whatnot. And, for people who, obviously know me, right? They all know
Mm,
the story about how I became a Flames fan, obviously. And it was certainly for me a choice because, because my first game was on my 7th birthday against the Vancouver Canucks on a preseason game. And basically, I have been stuck with this team ever since then. And, I'm still proud to be Flames fan. Like, we can't, deny that. Like, still be proud to be Flames fans when still understanding that this team has always been middle of the pack, perpetual mediocrity, man. Like, that's our number one thing is we do
Oh,
want this team to be perpetually mediocre at some point in the future.
some point we've gotten a taste in the regular season about what they can be, and then in the playoffs it's just, oh yeah, okay, it's back to reality. But
Yeah, exactly, man. Like,
yeah,
it's the Flames way of things, but oh well. Um,
yeah.
let's talk about this part too, before we really get into more of the fun things when it comes
hmm
to the season and things to preview. But what do you think this show's gonna be all about?
Well, what the show is going to be all about? Well, geez, as you can see from the top left corner of your screen there, as well as you can kind of announcing about Flame and Talk and us talking about Flames. I hope it's about Flames. But I hope what it's also going to be about is it's just going to be about kind of some it's thoughts and concerns. It's going to be something that is going to be moderately. Again, we're going to use some of our emotion because it's a podcast and we like to get our opinions out. But again, it'll hopefully be in moderation. That's what I hope. I hope that there's no, you know, I hope I won't start going on a rant about the Flames, even though I want to. That will be full of swears. But that, yeah, I mean, I hope that what I hope for this show, what I hope for the show in general, is just for people to have who want to listen to other people have opinions on the Flames, just kind of get that opinion and just kind of either just listen to us and say, kind of laugh and with our opinions or what we think, or just going to be nod their heads, say yeah, never thought of it that way. So that's what I hope for this, at least.
It's just like I put it out on Twitter the other day, right? It's that we'll basically praise the Flames at times. We'll
Mhm.
certainly have our moments where we'll bitch and complain about the Flames, but all we do is talk Calgary Flames hockey 24/7, 365. And to your point, I'm just excited. I really want this to be a platform where the fans can absolutely relate to people like you and myself, right?
Mhm.
Whether it be the things that are positive and then the things that are just absolutely infuriating.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
believe me, there are a lot of infuriating things about this hockey team, but
We will get there when we get there.
we
That's for
will
sure.
yes. And to
We
your
will have.
point, we will cross that bridge once we get there.
Oh
But
yes.
honestly, let's get into the fun stuff. Let's start to preview the season here because the Calgary Flames opened their season on Wednesday night against the Winnipeg Jets. You and I, by the way, will both be at that game.
hmm
And the expectations are not high. They're very low as compared to last season, where the expectations after getting Jonathan Huberdeau for Matthew Tkachuk, the trade, and then
Yeah.
signing Nazem Kadri, the expectations were so high for this team to do a whole lot. And last year was a complete and utter nightmare of a season for the Flames. And this year has no expectations. Absolutely low expectations with this hockey club. How are we feeling going into the season?
Yeah. I was just, there's a couple things with how the preseason went and versus kind of where, a bit of a stance and then trying to compare it to last season. I think one of the things for sure that is obvious, and I think a lot of people will say that would probably change the most, for the players especially, is new coach. We know about Daryl Sutter. We know about the things he did and he said to the players, but he, with Ryan Huska in, I think there's a little bit more of there's, I hope at least there's more of a positive environment in the dressing room. I hope there's more of something that he can
Which
bring.
by the way, I don't mean to cut you off there.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Which from certain media people, apparently the vibes are more positive in the room with the new coach and everything else.
Uh,
But to that
yeah.
point, I still don't know if that's going to translate to on a success.
Well, that's just the thing. It's just there's good things that are happening. There's some progress. It's first of all, it's with outside hockey. It's at the attitude. It's a bit of more of the atmosphere. If there's more of a positivity in the dressing room, then it won't. Then what they know is that if they have a shitty game, it's more going to be when they having feedback. It's not going to be something personal. Like it's all your fault. It's well, how could you do this? You know, what the hell's wrong with you? It's instead going to be more of, okay, here's what we did wrong. Here's what we need to improve. It'll be, again, he'll more talk about the team, what the team needs to improve on, rather than what is wrong with all of you. And but for me, and how I feel about where they'll end up, I think they'll be in between their. I think they'll have more. There will be more points than what they had last year. I think what they end off with, 90 or 91, because there were a few points
It was like
underneath.
92, 93. Because I
Yeah.
know they finished ahead of the Florida Panthers, funny enough, in the league standings, and
Mhm.
somehow the Florida Panthers went on to go on to the Stanley Cup final. But
Yeah. So I know, because I know Winnipeg, and actually, but I know also that Nashville was a point ahead of us too. So it was a fight between Nashville, Winnipeg, and us for that last wild card
I
spot. But
I
what?
think it was like games in hand or
Oh yeah,
something where the Jets won the season series, but to that point, yeah.
but yeah, for me, where I see them is, I do see them at almost. I see them at least at a second wild card spot in this season. We'll get to more of the how where I want. Actually, I can right now, but I'll do that in just a sec. But the the where I'm getting, like, my expectations are low, yeah, but they're higher. They're higher than it was after, like, the middle of the season last year. Because I mean, we came off 2 years ago with having the highest points in the Pacific, and then it was like, okay, and then all of a sudden we absolutely shit the bed for this season, or for, I guess, last season. So it's like, okay, what can we what can it's like, okay, well, it's the low expectations, but I still think that they have at least more. There's a little bit more of a better energy in the group, and at least what that can do is that it doesn't conspire to, even if you, like, that kind of feeling of, even if we win, we're just going to be blasted in the dressing room. So that energy, first of all, I think, with along with, I mean, nice signings with Coronado, a signing with now a guy named AJ Greer, which I saw he was a good gritty player.
By the
Um,
way, he had more penalty minutes than he did have goals.
good, good. We need, again, these. Conroy said you need grit, so might as well get some grit. But I think also with us, what Huberto was saying too, about him having, he said last year he had almost, like, it was the first time in his career he did not actually want to be on the ice. Like, he didn't want to play, and now this year he said he has much better. So I think that with better energy and us having a couple of new pieces, will I'm seeing there's going to be progress. It may not, it may not be fully in the standings, but it's progress towards something better in the long term. Maybe not in the short term, but I see something better in the long term. Just, yeah, hope. And again, I hope, hopefully Huska is not just putting a facade. Um, but I don't think. But he's been an assistant coach for how many years for the Flames, and I don't think
I
anybody
think
has complained about.
7 or 8 or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't think anybody has really complained about how, oh, well, Huska is this bad coach, and Huska just doesn't, isn't really, or doesn't really want to coach, and doesn't actually get involved. So I hope, I want to see what Huska can do for the team, but I also just want to see what the team can do for the team, right?
Here comes negative Noah for a second here when I say this.
Hmm.
But I look at it in almost the same way to an extent you do, in which it's like, okay, there are a few things that will absolutely have progress on. They're just
Yeah.
not good enough, though. That's my biggest thing. That's my biggest concern is Ryan Huska or Daryl Sutter or anyone else coaching this hockey team. I personally just look at that team and look at the team and I say, I just still don't think they're good enough. Like, they're good enough to get into a playoff spot. I mean,
Mm.
because they're too bad to be bad, and they're too good to and they're not good enough to be good,
Mhm.
right? I mean, like the whole perpetual mediocrity saying.
Yeah.
But that's the bottom line, right? It's like, okay, you're fine enough to get into a playoff spot, but are you good enough to go on a run?
No.
Like, no,
No.
you're not. Like my expectation is okay. Well, it's going to very likely be another mushy middle season here,
It,
and I mean, like Jonathan Huberdeau, I think Huberdeau will bounce back to a certain level. But if the Flames are expecting a 115-point Jonathan Huberdeau game,
oh
well
no.
then I'm sorry, that's just not
No.
happening.
No. My what I want to see, what my lowest expectations right now are for the Flames is progress. Is there's progress being made, or there is a pathway towards a progression. There's a path that is being made towards a better team, and also just
I think
how
having
we can.
Coronado play, by the way, on your top six, that's going to be a huge beneficiary, I
Oh
think, for
God,
this
yeah.
team this year. Like 100%. Like, did you see the way he played in the preseason? Like, he
Oh,
was
dude,
maybe this team's
insane.
best player in the preseason, bar none.
Oh God, yeah. I just wish Peltier also got that opportunity, but that's it's unfortunate,
That was at the game,
and
by the
he's
way, when he got injured.
yeah. I just was like I'm just looking at the phone. It's like they were saying he's upper body injury. I'm just like, oh, I hope it's just week to week, and nope, need
Yeah.
full on surgery. So
Yeah, I think someone tweeted it out like a while back saying like that the injury that Pelche had, he would be out for like 4 to 6 months. Not
and
ideal, not ideal,
now
especially when you're getting going in your NHL career.
you
Yikes.
know going back on LTIR, going on to LTIR, going into in maybe returning in January, between January and March, is it sucks because yeah, this was supposed to be his breakout year. This was supposed to be the at least an expectation for him was his
Yeah.
breakout year, and that injury just screwed maybe one of his biggest development years of his career. So
But you want to know what sucks as well? Not
yeah,
having Oliver Shillington on the team.
yeah,
And I understand the reasons why he's not on the
hmm
team, and if he has to take care of his mental health, that's number one biggest priority.
hmm
But I think not having Shillington on defense again is a huge killer for this team.
yeah. I like Shillington. I liked him
Me
in
too.
the when we had the playoffs. I liked him.
Mhm.
The he's I get, like, again, yeah, you, as you said, there's mental health and mental stability is your number one priority, and you want to make sure that he is 100% um good to go for good to go before he plays on the ice, and that includes his mental health. So that's, it's good that he's taking the time off. I just hope that he is. First of all, I hope he's doing well. Like, I hope he's doing well, and if he is planning on coming back, I hope he comes back sooner than later, definitely. But yeah, it's yeah, the two major key, like, major parts of the line are I in both on basically LTIR. So yeah, it sucks.
So in saying all this, right, and
Mhm.
how we feel the team's going to do and whatnot, where do we see them finishing in the standings?
I I put them down, so I wrote them down. Uh, we kind of did this. We kind of did this last week. I
Well,
just
and by
feel
the way, folks, we're about to preview the rest of the league here. So
so. Yeah, just with this, I might as well let you all know about where the standings are. So, I did. What I did is I put this in the west. So the Western Conference standings. I did this. So I know this will be haram for a lot of Flames fan, and this will be, yeah, actually, I might have my head on a stick here. I put the Oilers as first in the Western Conference and winning the President's Trophy. I put the Knights as second, the Stars as third.
I think you need to
Uh,
leave Calgary after saying that.
yeah, yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. No, I'm not leaving. You can't make me. The Avs as fourth. The Kraken is fifth. Kings for sixth, and then the first wildcard spot will be the Flames, and the second wildcard spot will be the Jets.
Well,
Um,
and funny enough, the Jets very likely could sneak back into that spot after extending Hellebuck and Scheifele today. So,
Yeah,
so to
it's
that point, you could be very bang on with that.
yeah, the Jets basically was saying we'll give you these offers, and it was Hellbox and Shifley's decision to basically say yeah, no, or yes, and I'm going to assume that Hellbuck is going to stay there until he probably, let's say 7 year, yeah, so he'll probably stay there
Yeah,
until
7.
he retires.
Well,
That,
and
or
now
if
the
if he
assumption,
has a lot more.
and now, by the way, the assumption is that Lindholm gets more than Scheifele, which,
Yeah, no,
oh,
no,
God,
thank you. If
yeah, no
If
thanks,
Lindholm,
no thanks.
yeah, Lindholm is not a $9 million, like not close to even an $8 million player.
I
He
don't even
is
know why they're trying him and Huberdeau on the first line when it didn't work last year. There's minimal to no chemistry at all between the two. So, like, I don't get why we're doing this. I mean, listen, actually, you know what? I get why they're doing it because your center depth is terrible and you have no option of being a possible number one guy coming up
oh
anytime
no,
soon.
I'm just looking
So
at
this is
Nazem.
why you're drafting to an extent stinks and you basically your development's not great because
Yeah,
those factors.
yeah. So I'm just looking at, hold on, Nazem Kadri, his contract right now. Just want to see
Still
7
6
year
more years.
49. So a salary of 7 million basically per.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah,
still
so
stuck with that for another 6 years.
is, yeah, 7 million. So he get basically a 7 by 7. Um, he- uh, that that should be the max AAV that we're doing with Lindholm should not be more than 7. Not more than 7.
Well, let's just
And
say
I'm
this so
putting that as a
Lindholm for a
stretch.
second here. I think Lindholm's probably worth around $9 million in a market that's not in Calgary. He's probably worth that much, and someone will give him that
In,
money for
in
sure. But
Carolina, if he
yeah,
was still his peak in Carolina, like when he was doing well with Carolina, and I would say, yeah, try to keep him, but he's not his Carolina self. He's well, how old is he now? What is he?
he's going to be 29 in December, so he'll be 30 next year.
A guy in his 30s, right? So if you're going to keep him
It's
short time.
you're only continuing to prolong the inevitable too.
Exactly.
And the fact of the matter is that this organization is going to be forced into a rebuild anyway, which,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
to that point, so for me, I'll say about where I think the Flames will finish too. I personally think, as I said earlier, it's going to be a mushy middle like finish for the Flames this year as it was last year.
Yeah.
But somehow they do still sneak into the playoffs because, as I said, they're not good enough to be good. They're not bad enough to be bad and
Hmm.
whatnot. But if you are
That's
off to it, but let's just say, for example, you are off to a really bad start in the first 2 months or so
hmm
between Wednesday open tonight and by the time American Thanksgiving hits,
yeah.
right? Because usually the whole thing is if you're in the playoff spot by American Thanksgiving, it's likely you are going to be in the playoffs later on in the spring. Would it
Unless
be time?
yeah.
Would it be time then for the Flames to sell?
Now see,
Like sell off Lindholm, sell off all those guys,
well,
pending
we could.
UFAs.
Well, I feel like at that point we'd be doing a rebuild in the middle of the season, starting a rebuild, completely like a whole bunch of lines, I know one of the things who we want to get rid of for goaltender is Vladar. I know that. I know if like who else is going to be a UFA next year.
Hanifin's going to be, Tanev's going to be,
Yeah.
Lindholm. We all know Lindholm for sure, and
So at that point,
Vladar's beginning his first 2 years of that contract as well.
so I'd say, if that if the record is so bad that we're like last and there's no look for improvement, yeah,
Yeah,
we
exactly.
at that point it's like we go to whatever extent we can to have some success in the season, to have some salvage, because otherwise, if we keep a hold of these guys, who knows? Maybe one of them will want to stay, and we're like, okay. or maybe someone or maybe someone that we want to keep who we don't expect will want to trade because of how bad the season has been. Like
Yeah.
what do we do? What do we do
Hmm.
at that point? So it's
Yeah.
it's hard to say, but I think at that point because of how bad it becomes, I think I'd say yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's where I'm at too. Because like I think to that point, but the issue I have is I don't even think we'll have to even worry about that because the team's going to be good enough to the point where they're going to be in the race, and you can't then trade these guys,
Hmm.
right? Especially if they're not signed before the season, right? And personally, I'm not for extending them at all, right?
Hmm.
Like everyone knows how much I'm against Lindholm extending here in Calgary, but at the same time, it's like if you're good and they're going to be good enough where they're going to be in the race for a playoff spot, and to the point where you're screwed, you're not going to be able to trade them.
Yeah.
Like that's the problem, right? So you put yourself in a spot where you're going to lose either way.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't
But
know. We'll
to that point, we'll put a bow on that part of the conversation, and we'll have a lot of more time to talk about that as the season goes
yes.
by. But let's talk about the rest of the league for a second here. Who are you
Yeah.
most excited to watch this season besides the Calgary Flames, and who do you think will win the Stanley Cup?
Okay. Um. One. One of the teams that I'm somewhat excited to actually see, just to see if they do decent. To see if they do decent is Arizona. I
Okay,
want to see because there has been some promise. There has been also the typical failure, but there has been promise with with Arizona, and there has oh that and Buffalo. Sorry, that and Buffalo. So those are the two teams. So
I
Arizona
got.
and
By the way,
Buffalo.
but I'll mention this about Buffalo quickly, because I'm going to post my standing predictions tomorrow.
Yeah.
I got the Buffalo Sabres in first place in the Atlantic Division because I look
Mm.
at them and I say to myself, I think this is a really good team. They if they just had that goaltending last season, they're a playoff team, no questions asked. And Devon Levi is going to be a star. He's going to
Yeah.
be a star. Not to the point where he would be a generational goalie. I'm not suggesting that, but he is going to be a good goalie for Buffalo. And if they get some good goaltending, then they could
Yeah.
absolutely be a wagon this season. The Sabres.
Well, because I know last season for Buffalo they had who'd they have? They had Craig Anderson, and then they had who was
Yeah.
the young guy? Was it?
Who was the young guy?
He was. I think he was Russian. Pretty sure he was.
Hmm.
And I think I don't remember what his name was, but he was.
But the
They
goaltending was not great to that point last year.
yeah, what they had to do is what their original plan was is that they'll have Craig Anderson for a year because I
Yeah.
don't think they really had any other options. So they're like, okay, we'll keep the because he probably his last year, so he just wanted to do one um come on for one more year, but then they wanted to rely on mostly the young goaltender because they thought, oh look, he has promise, and then he wasn't doing his thing, and they're like, okay, we're gonna have to put in like 43-year-old Craig Anderson into the net for basically
Flames
trying to be our
Flames
starter.
draft pick, by the way, Craig Anderson.
Oh yeah. Oh jeez. Oh,
One of the many ones that got away in the
oh
late
yes,
90s.
many. Yes, many.
But to your point, but to your point about Buffalo though, is they did not have great goaltending at all last season. And I was saying to myself, if they had a full year of Devon Levi, I think they absolutely are a playoff team. No questions
Oh,
asked. Because you got
oh,
Tage Thompson, you got Tuck, you've got Darlene, who just signed a
just signed.
massive contract
Hmm.
earlier today. You got Owen Power, and their defense is going to get better. Man, the
They
Sabres, man, they're going to be a wagon. Even if it's not this year, because I know like me having them in first in the Atlantic, that's a bold take that I have.
yeah.
But they're going to be great in the next 5 years. There's no doubt that they're going to be great in the next couple
There
years. Absolutely.
there is a lot of promise, and I don't see them being first. I do see them being. I think actually they're here. Perfect time to go over to my Eastern Conference. So I did. So I put them. So here's my Eastern standing is the Canes first,
Okay.
second Leafs, third are the Devils, fourth are the Islanders, fifth are the Rangers, sixth is Ottawa, first wild card spot is Ottawa, and the second is the Sabers. So they are. So again, I mean this might be a bold move for
The
myself for
Sens could
putting them.
also be a good team this year, by the way.
Yeah,
Keeping
which
that in mind.
which is why I put the Saber. Like it is a bold statement too to put the Sabers as a second call or a second wildcard team. But what I think it is that it's going to be some development with both the D, and trying to fully mend the core as well as Devin Levi. If he is the starting, then he's him trying to develop him, kind of getting into his role. So I think they're good enough to make the playoffs. I think they're finally good enough to snap the drought,
Yeah.
and them actually getting into now. Do I think they'll make it far? No, because I don't, because none of them have been in the playoffs, or basically, none of the guys that are a core of their core are have ever been to the playoffs. So that's going to be a challenge. But that saying, I think they will have they'll be like a at least somewhat of a playoff contender with even without the playoff knowledge and the playoff experience. I think they will absolutely be some playoff contenders where they might go further than expected.
You know what? You know what other team I'm excited for this year from the
Mm,
Eastern Conference? The New Jersey Devils. Like I
Devils.
think that team is going to have an absolutely monster season, in my opinion. I think they're going to win the President's Trophy. That's the team I have winning the President's
Yeah.
Trophy. Also, that's a team I have winning the Stanley Cup
Mm,
because you've got Jack Hughes as a top 5 player in the entire league. Yeah, I said it. Jack Hughes is definitely a top 5 player in the NHL. No questions asked. And you've got, I mean, the only issue I would say with the Devils is their goaltending is a bit of a concern, no question about it, because a lot of people, including me, thought that Connor Hellebuyck was going to New Jersey. But that if there's another team excited to watch in the Eastern Conference this year, it's absolutely the New Jersey Devils.
yeah. Well, yeah. Again, I don't think I've kind of put anything for who I. Oh no, I did. I know. I put the Canes. I put the Canes.
Now, in saying all that, I know there's teams we're excited about, but what team do you see that made the playoffs last year take a
Hmm.
step back this year?
Boston. Simple
Yeah,
as that. Boston.
wouldn't be surprised.
They're. I don't think they're taking it back so far back that they're absolutely going to be dead last. But I think in regards to their comparison between them making, sorry, in regular season, them making them records for points and for wins, and that they're going to, like, again, I said that they're going to just be over the Ottawa for a wild card spot. They're going to be over, like, or sorry, they're going to be sixth. So they're just going to be over Ottawa. Um, but again, I don't. They're they're yeah, just their first round loss was probably way more, like, just way more hurtful for that franchise than you can imagine. Like, I don't think, like, that
Yeah,
was the year that was
yeah.
supposed to be, we're gonna win. It's cup season. It was basically cup season or bust, and they busted hard. And it's not, and it's again, it's not that they busted, but it's how they busted. They pulled they pulled off. I'm not even kidding. They almost pulled off what they did in 2010, which what made them won the cup. Which way they had a 3-1 series lead, Toronto.
3-0. 3-0 series 3-0 series lead on
They had,
Philadelphia.
was it Philly?
Yeah, on Philly,
No,
yeah.
no, I was thinking of 2010 when they were
Yeah,
at
yeah,
3.
yeah. In 2010. Boston had a 3-0 lead on the Flyers, and then they choked a 3-0 lead.
Yeah, no. I was thinking of Toronto when they had a three when Toronto had 3-1 series deficit.
Oh no, when they were up in Montreal a few years ago. Yeah. That's the one.
I said Toronto.
Yeah, I know you did. I know you did.
Oh, no, I was talking about Boston versus Toronto in 2010. Didn't Boston have a 3-1 series lead against
No, Boston had
Toronto?
a Boston had a 3-0 lead against the Flyers in 2010.
I might be
3-0
getting this
lead.
confused here.
Yeah.
Hold on. I just want to make sure about. I might be doing this here. 2010.
Although the Bruins, funny enough, had a 3-1 lead on the Leafs and almost blew that too, but they went on to come back in that 4-1 game against the Leafs to win Game 7. But
2010 or 2011. 2000. Maybe.
And then, funny enough, 2011, the Bruins had a 3-0 lead against the Flyers again the very next year, but they went on to sweep that series. So practically 2010 gets very forgotten about.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to make sure here. Just seeing summary. There we go. So in the quarterfinal, just trying to see because I know Game 7. I'm just trying to see about how quarterfinals Flyers. Trying to look for conference quarterfinals. Where's Boston? Come on, Boston. Show yourself, Boston. What the hell is going on, Boston? Okay. You know what then? Yeah, apparently I'm just completely confused. Huh. Okay. Well, I'm an idiot.
Listen, Connor. It happens to all of us, man.
Oh man.
It's no big deal. It's no big deal, Mike. Okay.
You got gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen listening. You have a real hockey fan here who can't even try and reference about what year Boston screwed over the Leafs. Yeah, real, in a lot of attention.
Oh man.
Jesus,
hey, you
man.
know what? It happens to
Yeah.
all of us, man.
Yeah.
It's no big deal at all. Okay, but in saying all that, who's your Stanley Cup prediction?
So my Stanley Cup is I think it's the Canes. It's the Hurricanes. I think what one of the problems they had again was I think for most of the teams too is even when Florida like won all against all those teams, the other teams were expecting Boston.
Yeah.
They were prepared for Boston, not for Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're like, okay, let's see what they do like this, how they do that. Like Toronto, they were expecting Boston. They were going to get their revenge, and then all of a sudden, Florida comes out of nowhere, and it's like, we don't have beef with them. What's going on here? And they got their asses kicked, and then guess what? So did the Hurricanes because they probably expected.
We won Florida.
Yeah. And frankly, the Hurricanes were probably also expecting someone like Boston or even the Lightning or the Leafs to get with them. You know, some like real playoff contender, but all of a sudden this underdog comes out of freaking nowhere and sweeps them. Like absolutely sweeps them, and they're like, what the hell is going on? So like again, Vegas was the only one. I think at that point, yeah. Vegas was the only one, but for this season, I think what's going to happen is that with Canes having being first place, they show that they were a playoff team. They have pretty good goaltending. Anderson again is we know Anderson. We've seen Anderson. I mean, Anderson has pretty much been ridiculed by again Toronto media about because he didn't do good in this series against Columbus, or he didn't do good in this series and Buff against Boston. You could see it's like he basically carried the team to like different like 7 games or some of that. Like absolutely, So Anderson again is a good. I think again is a good goaltender, and actually, frankly, Antti Ranta is a good backup. He's a good backup. So what it is, more or less, it's just are the Canes going to be able to take what they had last year and rather than cry and say, oh, it was supposed to be our year, are they going to say, okay, are we going to get our stuff together and we're going to improve, like take what we already have and times it by 10? So that to me that is I think the Canes have an opportunity to do that. I think the Canes absolutely have an opportunity to do that. And if they decide that, you know what, it's, I'm just going to lay back and I'm not going to do much after they've maybe won, either got first or just were like, last year was our time and now it's not, and we're going to have to wait for another year, or what, that's their mentality, then sucks to be them. But I think that they have a very high likely chance that they are cup winners.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, hey, listen, like Carolina, I would say Carolina is definitely within my top 5 teams in the NHL in terms of who I think are near the top to be Stanley Cup contenders. So
Mhm.
I wouldn't be surprised either way if Carolina does make another run, but I guess we shall see on that front. So we'll put a bow on this part of the conversation here on the podcast,
Mhm.
and let's talk about the arena, shall we?
Arena. Ah,
About
yes.
about time, man. I mean, the contracts have been signed. We are good to go. It'll probably take about 2.5, 3 years. So how are we feeling that now it's finally done? It's finally official.
It's official and it's done. It's huge for the city. It's huge because it's not just the Flames get a new arena, but it's not it's a plaza. It's a whole. You have a community rink. You have a plaza. You have apparently a shopping center. I believe that's what they're looking at too. Like they're
I think
having
the
a
community
whole.
center portion of it is massive.
It's huge, and then like what it is also is that it's probably going to not only be used for hockey games, but it's also going to be used for concerts.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna have so many more people coming over to um coming over to Calgary with different bands, either goodbyes or whatever, that kind of stuff. Because Guess what? The guess what the city has? It has a brand new arena that can actually, handle more than 20 decibels without the concrete on the freaking ceiling just falling down, right? It's just nice. It's so nice to see. Now, on the long term of what we're gonna have to pay for it, yeah, that'll suck. Because again, we're the ones paying for it basically. Even though it says 300, I mean 300 million from the Alberta government is massive. Having a 700 million also with about the initial funding, and then I think there's a couple other 100 million or a couple hundred, like 200 million with other for other support. Again, it's huge. I am very happy. It's just I'm just how what are we paying for it basically? Like as Calgarians, what are we paying?
I say if you're using it, you should pay for it.
Okay,
Simple as that. And I don't want to get too much into this conversation because the
fair, fair.
whole thing of using taxpayer money on the arena is a very divisive issue and topic.
Hmm.
But all I'm going to say is that if you're using for it, pay for it.
Fair. No,
Simple as
fair.
that. Simple as
Yeah.
that. Because you're going to be using it anyway. So it's like I don't understand why then people complain about, oh, taxpayer money should not be going to the arena. You're still using it either way.
Yeah.
You're still
No,
going to
I
be paying for $1,000 to even be down there to begin with. So it's like I don't know why you're complaining about all my taxpayer money goes into it. So like,
it's
but
yeah,
anyway,
it
I'll
is.
put it
Yeah.
like,
It's
yeah,
that's yeah, no, that I mean that will start getting into political stuff, and I'm not going into
for sure.
politics
Oh yeah,
in this.
100%
Yeah.
no. Yeah,
No,
that's not what this show is all about. So we'll
yeah.
quickly.
Hockey hockey
I think personally for me anyway, just talking about the arena thing, like I think this is great for the city. I think it's beneficial.
absolutely.
I mean, listen, like, I mean, yes, Murray gets his way. He gets his arena. So maybe hopefully he looks at it and says, okay, now it's time for me to sell the team and capitalize on the value the team's going to have in a couple of years' time, right? But it's still great for the city because to your point, it's
Yeah.
not just for hockey, it's for concerts, it's for all the other stuff. We're all sick of Edmonton having the concerts and whatnot. So
Mhm.
it's time. It's about time. Like it's 20 years overdue
Yeah.
to that
Yeah,
extent.
it's been a long, long time overdue.
Long
So,
time, long time coming, man.
yeah.
But to that point, we shall start to put a bow on the debut episode of the Flame and Talk podcast here. Do you have any final thoughts on what to expect in the first few games of the season before we do episode 2 next time?
It's hard to say. I honestly, what I really want to do is just more observe than actually have any kind of comments about. Um, I mean, we've pretty much kind of already gone through about who like who we expect from and who we have, and there's this better atmosphere and blah blah blah. But on the ice, that atmosphere doesn't mean crap unless it's actually shown on the ice. So
That's
that I guess that's me kind of talking about my own opinions there. Just but also another thing just with the season start is you know again with I think it's something we didn't really talk about too much was Jacob Markstrom and
Oh yeah,
I mean
yeah,
Vladar. We did talk about Vladar, but that's more just trade. But Jacob Markstrom is if we based on what we've been seeing from him in preseason, doesn't look like much has changed. So unless we see some all of a sudden an awakening in him of the Vezina winning or the Vezina nominee that we had last year or 2 years ago, then I all I say is that Wolf should really be getting ready to come up because
yeah.
it's not looking good.
I keep saying over and over again that Wolf is going to be the starter by American Thanksgiving, and I will absolutely stand by that prediction because the preseason, man, it did not give me any confidence that Markstrom's going to bounce back at all, right? And the funny thing is, he allowed too many of those first shot, first goal stuff last year, and it happened against the Vancouver Canucks on Friday night. So it's like, and by the way, folks, Jacob Markstrom's making $6 million for the next 3 years. But anyway, we should put a bow on this episode of the Flaming Talk podcast. Connor, my man, we will see you on episode 2, brother.
Sounds good. I'll see you then.
That's it for Connor Dolan, and that's it for me, Noah Adler. Thank you so much for tuning into the first episode of the Flaming Talk podcast. We will be back next week with episode 2, and enjoy episode 1 on wherever you get your podcast stuff at.